5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And it's live.
This is Leicester Till I Die TV. Watch and subscribe on YouTube and listen on your podcast platform.
Rob, good morning. Welcome along.
Morning.
The busiest journalist in the country following Leicester City.
Well, they do keep you busy, don't they? There's always something going on and some drama just around the corner waiting.
We say this every time. Why are we ever surprised? You know, they do. I remember, I think Sunday was the day when they got rid of Nigel Pearson. They do like to do it on a Sunday.
Things do seem to happen at strange times, don't they?
They do. I think they were probably thinking that everybody was trying to cook the wife a birthday meal.
Yeah, exactly. That's what happened to me.
Exactly. Well, hopefully, I say you're still married and she still understands and what have you. Look,
yeah, she knows the game.
I've got there another fine mess. I mean, what has happened to this club? It used to be so well run, and yes, okay, mistakes happened. They always have. Even when Vichai, God bless him, was around, but it just seems to be at the moment stumbling from one disaster to another.
There's certainly a lot of dramas. I mean, some of their own making as well. I mean, this is one. I mean, you could argue the PSR stuff is also by their own making because of this overspend previously. So, it's surprising, but not surprising. I mean, I was surprised at the time of it that it's only 12 games in, because he had got some points on the board. Although you could argue that some of those points, they picked up in fortuitous circumstances. The only ones I can think that they dropped that were at Crystal Palace. And also, if you look statistically at them, there were lots of areas still to improve, but there were some areas that they had improved on in the last group of games before the third international break. But I don't think it was. I think performances were only a part of it. I think they've decided to not let this drag on with the Brendan Rodgers situation a couple of years ago in their back of their minds, because it's so important that they stay in the Premier League, because relegation would be an absolute disaster this season with the EFL angry still at last season. You will not be able to avoid a business plan, have to sell players. You might have a registration embargo. You might have points deduction. They will hit Leicester hard. So I think they've decided to act now because they couldn't see moving forward the situation improving. Because there was a real problem for Steve. Firstly, trying to win over the fans from the outset, really. I mean, I was quite shocked at Walsall. I mean, we were only a few games in then. Not just at the performance, really, which was quite lackluster against a strong Walsall team, but the fans' reaction as well. And I think that sowed the seeds in that front. But also the players. I think universally they quite liked him as a man. Yeah. He wasn't the sort of manager that would tear people apart in front of others. If he had something to say to them, he'd do it privately. He always backed him in the media. I mean, I asked him about Wout Faes' form after the game on Saturday, and he said, "I will never come in here and criticise an individual." So they liked that part of him, but I just don't think they bought into his methods, because they were so different to Enzo, and they all loved Enzo, the way he worked.
Isn't it? I mean, did we have sort of blue-tinted glasses on with Enzo? Because, look, he came in and his job, as we always said it with Steve Cooper, is his job would be to keep us up. And if he did that in 17th place by plus 1 goal difference, he'd done what was required of him. Enzo got us promoted, which was what was required of him. But he'd gone from he'd thrown away a 17-point lead, probably the biggest lead since United threw theirs. Newcastle United threw theirs away against Manchester in the famous "I'd love it" Kevin Keegan era. But look, Enzo was the name. Somebody once described it as trading in a Rolls Royce and getting a Austin Allegro. Back for those older listeners that remember the Allegro. And as I say, yes, Enzo was liked, but it could have gone so wrong last season, couldn't it?
Yes, it could have done. And this season, I think, obviously, when Chelsea came in for him, it would have been really difficult for him to turn it down. But equally, had he stayed, there was still the risk of possible points deduction, a huge effort to try and stay in the Premier League, a real challenge with the statistics against newly promoted teams in the modern era. It would have been a really difficult challenge for any manager. And that's the reason that when they were trying to find Enzo's replacement, they found it so difficult because so many people didn't fancy it. Leicester aren't the draw right now that they were when Brendan came to the club. It's a different scenario now. And they remain in the same situation now as they're looking for the next manager they were when Enzo left.
Everybody says that, it's a Premier League club, so that's got to appeal. Look at the fantastic training ground, that's got to appeal. And we all know that managers, when they, if they come like Cooper, feel sorry for him or not, he's not going to have trouble putting food on the table. He will have walked away from this with a nice golden handshake, as all managers do.
And probably his reputation untarnished, really, because he's only been given 12 games. So, his stock hasn't dropped that much because of this. It's more of an impact for Leicester.
Was his stock that high, though? When you look at his... and I've got to say, I have put on so much weight because I wanted Cooper. He was one of the 3 I wanted at the start. And I've eaten so much humble pie as I've watched the matches. And looking at his record of wins in the Premier League, it's not been fantastic.
No, and he did inherit a difficult situation the first time, didn't he, with Forest when he come up? But he did get the job done and kept him up. But I think there's more to it than that. I think also he's quite can be quite a bullish, although he's quite a charming guy, very, very respectful of the media and the people that he works with. But he can be quite bullish with other people behind the scene in terms of what he demanded in certain things, like the right sort of coaches, and I don't mean coaches on the training ground. I mean coaches take players, basically that sort of thing. And he certainly was very bullish about them fighting injustice in terms of PGMOL and refereeing decisions. That played out publicly as well as privately. He wanted the club to challenge everything and be on the front foot and not be bullied and be more assertive. And I don't think that's really naturally Leicester's way. No, it might suit Forest, but I don't think people at Leicester are particularly like that. So I think there was those sort of issues as well that were bubbling away in the background, and they decided, look, this isn't working. We don't think it's going to work anymore. Let's make the change now and give ourselves the best opportunity of getting somebody in that we think we can work really closely with and support and get them over the line to survive in the Premier League.
I'm just looking here, Steve Cooper, 14 wins from 67 Premier League matches.
Yeah, you got to have context on those sort of stats. Arne Slot's stats are incredible, aren't they, for in the Premier League? But he's only had a few games, and he's at Liverpool with a talented squad.
You do date your stats in, but I think as Lordy says here, most fans would have bought into Cooper, but there was no improvement from the outset. And that's the thing. Although I was away for 4 weeks during this, I missed some of the games, when I've looked at them, yes, like you said, the 2 wins we got, you can't say we deserved either of those. We were lucky. Bournemouth on another day, would have equalised if not won. Southampton, we were bloody lucky, and again, two down, if not, and we should have been more against a team that's bottom. So we were lucky with the 2 wins, but we just weren't seeing any improvement on the performances or the tactics. And the problem we had was that the teams that we were above were improving.
Yeah, I mean, look at the Man United performance. I mean, that was their best one in terms of restricting number of shots on goal, but their stats for the number of shots they gave up to opponents was ridiculously high. Defensively, they were quite open and at times disorganised. I felt watching the games, and certainly at Man United, they were switching off. They wouldn't get back into position fast enough. About Fars would drop deep, or then he would lose his position and move into midfield, or go beyond the fullback. So that they really need someone who's going to really organise that defensively, because that's the only structure that's going to work in the Premier League, a defensive structure that they can build on. Better to keep the ball out of the net and give yourself the chance than be chasing games 2-0 down all the time. So, and they always concede first, and that was a repeating mantra as well. So, there was a lot of work still to be done. And there is still now for the next manager coming in. So I can imagine, the people that they'll be looking to appoint now or try and talk to about appointing, there will be some hesitation on their part. Do they want to come in and do this? What sort of manager will take up this challenge? We know that Potter is incredibly unlikely now. I mean, they've tried for him twice and he's shown reluctance on 2 occasions. And people might say David Moyes, but that one it seems unlikely as well at this moment. So we'll just see who they can pull out of their bag, really.
We say though about managers looking at it and saying, "Oh, do I really want to go there?" But you look at Watford. You know if you take on that Watford job, that you're lucky if you get a full season. But managers still go because they know when they walk away, if it goes wrong, they do get the good money. I mean, look at David Potter, like you were saying. He's been able to wait and turn down jobs because he's got such a good deal being sacked by Chelsea.
Yeah, I don't think it's just financial, though. I mean, no situation with Watford. A lot of those guys were young managers that thought this was their opportunity. They weren't seasoned, experienced guys in many respects, except for Nige when he went in, and so they were operating in a different sort of managerial market, and obviously they had no patience whatsoever as well. I mean, we used to mock Watford, but Leicester are getting into that territory now, aren't they? With finding a manager every season, 2 managers every season, so. They need some stability moving forwards. I mean, there still is the issue around PSR that could be lingering around the club that might also be a hindrance to persuading the right candidate to come in as well, because we don't know what's going to happen when the next accounts are filed with the Premier League for last season on December the 31st. So, interesting times ahead.
We're saying about changing managers, etc., and Cooper not being accepted by fans. I mean, I don't buy into this that it was because he was at Forest. Because I think
there was an element of that, Chris, but I don't think. No. I think that is overplayed a little bit, to be honest. Because
I mean, Simon Jordan gave it a huge thing on TalkSport the other morning, and I'm thinking, does he really know? I mean, I like Simon Jordan. Don't get me wrong. I love the way he argues black is blue, but he wasn't. Martin O'Neill had more links with Forest. Wes Morgan had more links with Forest. But when you look at that Chelsea game, 1 shot on target, their goalkeeper, Sanchez, who we know is not the best goalkeeper in the Premier League, to put it politely, did not have 1 shot to save.
Yeah, and the first 30 minutes were the concern. Yeah, they were so deep and just pumping it long and trying to relieve the pressure, and then the pressure just came on them, and they were sat back and they just let Chelsea dictate everything. And then they woke up towards the end of the second half, and they did create a couple of good chances. I thought, obviously, missed the target with both of them. So there were little moments, and there has been in every game. There's been little moments, but it's not been consistent. They've not been able to produce a full 90-minute performance yet.
All the fans are saying we're a 45-minute team, and you can't keep coming back from being behind. He can't base a survival season on that. And like I say, I just think when you look at Vardy is taken off, and he's only had 4. Well, in that first half, he only had 4 touches. Now, normally you'd go mad at a player. What the hell are they doing? But it's no point having somebody like Vardy on the pitch if you're not going to service him.
Yeah, and I think there's a bigger point as well about the quality of some of the players that Leicester have got this season. I mean, they're finding it very, very tough now stepping up to the Premier League. The ones that haven't had a lot of experience at that level. There's certain players in there as well that have had a little bit of experience in the Premier League. I mean, take Wout Faes, for example. The only thing he knows about the Premier League is that relegation season, and now here he is back in the Premier League, and it's been a struggle at the start of this season. I'm still yet to be convinced that Victor Christiansen is a Premier League player. There's the standard of the player is not as strong.
We have such great players as Edouard and Dakova Reed.
Well, I think
they're tad sarcastic there.
I think the Edouard deal, it was surprising at the time, but I think it's proven to be the wrong move. He's not featured at all. He's not offered anything.
It will be interesting to see who comes out on top. And well, maybe not now Steve Cooper's come, but with Steve Cooper's stay between us and Ipswich, because we'd gone down the non-Leicester route of buying older, experienced players. We'd got some youngsters in there as well, but in the likes of AU, who's probably been one of the successes, Dakova Reed, and Edouard, and then you got Ipswich, who were buying the younger players, and see which of the two teams came out on top. But like I say, with Ipswich, that battle when they beat Tottenham, and the fight that Southampton gave Liverpool this weekend, I've just seen none of that under Cooper. Had he, and there's been so many sayings of this, and there's rumours about players having gone to see Top or Top going in to see players. It almost does look like he'd lost the dressing room, because sometimes when we were looking at those players on that pitch, they were stood around as if they had no idea what they were doing.
I don't think there was a question that he'd lost the players. As I said, that I think they liked him personally, but they just didn't buy into what he wanted them to do. And if you're going out trying to carry out a game plan that you don't think will work, then it won't work. So I think a lot of the players, I did hear that rumor. Somebody sent it me. It was on social media about Top going into the dressing room after the game. Well, the players were straight out going off to Copenhagen. I was still in the press room and I could hear them leaving. So I don't think they would. And Steve Cooper and his staff would have still known that Top was in there talking about it. So I think those sort of conversations, and Top is quite close to a number of the players, would have been done privately away from the ground. I think we can dismiss those sort of nonsense things.
No, I think so as well. I mean, it reminded me, if you've ever watched The Damned United, of the Clough moment when he was taken into the players' lounge afterwards. I've got to say, and like I say, we were known as such a well-run club, and I just worried that we are going to start becoming a laughingstock if we're not careful, and not for the right reasons. And all right, these are all reports in papers, and they've got pages to fill and things to fill on to. And I want to say, none of these sort of stupid rumours come from the Athletic. I have to say that. It's all the tabloids. But, Top coming out and saying, well, actually, I wasn't convinced about Cooper. And you look at it and you think, like, well, hang on a second, who's running that club?
Well, this is how it works. Top is the main man in terms of making the final decision. He will always make the final decision, hiring and firing. But he will be advised, and the recruitment process will be carried out by John Rudkin. And he will then speak to candidates, and he will feed back to Top and say, this person will do it. This person's a bit reluctant. We'd like him probably as A. What do you think? And Top will say, yeah. So John Rudkin is his football advisor in many respects. The fact that you've sacked a manager 12 games into a 3-year contract is a terrible, terrible look. It reflects more on the people that hired and did they do the due process? Then it does as much as on Cooper and the players. So I think there's a lot of accountability around the club that is due. So they've got to get this one right. There can be no more mistakes because it would be disastrous.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of the players, the team at the top, as in Susan Whelan, were they with Top before Leicester City?
Susan was, yes. Susan worked for King Power before she moved to work for Leicester City.
Do we need, and we say about managers all the time, and I know you've spoken to Locks, and I had Locks on here from Blue Tinted Glasses last week. He's very much he wants Top to sell, and we're obviously always a case of careful what you wish for. But yes. I mean, to be honest with you, we had a full show about it. Funnily enough, on the Sunday morning before this was announced in the afternoon. But we all kind of agreed that really at the end of the day, it's not Top that we want to sell. We said, we wanted him to grow a pair, which he then did. But sometimes the likes of the Susan Whelans, the Rudkins, the Andrew Nevilles, they need to be replaced maybe.
Well, Andrew Neville's been a great servant for the football club. I mean, he's not a decision maker at the club.
But isn't he Rudkin's boss?
No, he's football operations manager. They're two different jobs.
Okay.
John Rudkin is director of football, and Andrew Neville he used to be the club secretary. Andrew, he's very much more about the running of the club in terms of meeting all the criteria of the leagues and registration of players and things like that, contracts. He's very much like that, and he's a really good operator. Susan looks after the club overall in terms of the commercial revenue, the running of the club, and John heads up the football operations of the club. So if fingers are being pointed because of football matters, then that's really towards John.
Right, okay. Well, maybe I've never actually always blamed him, but like you say, but I mean, Top. Look, and I think any club has got this problem when you are a continental, a manager from a continental or a foreign country. Does he need somebody? I mean, I know he's got John, but the case against John Rudkin is building every season. Players that he's advising that we buy, etc., etc. And I know he's probably going off what the manager's wanting, but
in terms of recruitment of players, that is the head of recruitment, right. And that will be it'd be between. How it works is the manager will say, and they had a meeting last week with Cooper to plan for the January window, so that was another reason why the timing of this was a bit of a surprise. They were planning for the January transfer window, and Coops would have met with John Rudkin and Martin Glover, who's the head of recruitment. Now, he would have said, look, I think this is Cooper. He would have said, I think we need strengthening in this position and that position. What can you find us? What options have we got?
Yeah.
Martin and his team will then go off and scout and recruit and look at who they think would be the right matches. Then they come in and they discuss them and they rank them. Option 1, option 2, option 3. Now, let's see if we can get option 1. And then that's when John comes in, and John will then try and do the negotiations to get option 1. If option 1 don't work, they go for option 2. That's how their recruitment works at the club. And the new manager coming in will operate in the same way. He will assess the squad and express his opinion of what they want. And then him and Martin will then discuss the best options for each position that they want to recruit in, and then it's up to John to go and do the deals. John will offer an opinion, but he's not a recruitment guy. So, he
does get blamed for everything, every man and his dog. And I will still always refer people back to the article that you wrote on John Rudkin, which was the best I've ever read on him. It did sort of put it into perspective. I
mean, there's lots of different sides to it, and nothing is ever black and white. And there are pluses for the John's loyalty to the club over the many years, and the different roles and how he knows the club and he knows the area very well. But also, he's not free from criticism and scrutiny as well, because there has been decisions being made that have turned out to be the wrong decisions. This is one in point. But if they get the next guy in and it turns out to be the right appointment and they stay up, then it would have been the right decision. And a brave, bold move, it will be seen. So you can only put context on this in due course at the end of the season. If they still go down, then, then it will be open season again, won't it?
Obviously, yes, it will, definitely. Like you say, there's better clubs than Leicester that have made mistakes with the managers.
And it's always a team. When a club goes down, I mean, Enzo said it last season, when a club goes down, it isn't because of one person. It isn't because of two people. It's because of a culmination of people who haven't done their jobs, whether that be players, whether it be the coaches, whether it be recruitment, whether it be the director of football, the chairman making the wrong decisions. It is a culmination of lots of factors, never just one person.
No, David makes a very good point, and I mean, like I said, I'd gone from Cooper not necessarily being my first choice, but I'm going to say it was one of the three that I wanted at the start of the season, thinking about who we might get in. I mean, like, nobody ever went for Enzo because nobody had any idea. He was totally left field. But I looked at it and I'd got to the point, like I say, having watched the games, having seen the performances, and it was if you lose, like Southampton, their fans can be proud of their players, like we were under Pearson in The Great Escape. We battled every week. We weren't doing that, and I was saying, right, this is the time, and they have taken on the lessons from leaving Rodgers too late to sack him. They've gone early because there's a lot of clubs down there, including probably Southampton, Crystal Palace, Everton, West Ham, that are all possibly looking at changing the manager. So maybe they've looked in the head like, we need to get him first, because last time we were only left, no disrespect to him, but we're only left with Dean Joyce. There wasn't a lot of fish to choose from in the pond. So maybe they've gone earlier this time because of that, before the other teams. But I couldn't understand why it wasn't done, because Chelsea, we were going to lose to anyway. Let's be honest with you. No disrespect to the Leicester players, but we were going to lose to Chelsea. So it was weird that the decision wasn't taken when you've got those 2 weeks, which makes me ask the question, was this being looked at during those 2 weeks? And is there somebody maybe that's going to be in time for the Brentford game because they've been talking to somebody over the break?
Possibly. They would have. This wouldn't have just been a snap decision. Although ultimately it would have been. They would have been thinking about this and discussing this for a few weeks. And I think Steve privately knew that he was under pressure to some extent. He knew they had to get some results in this next group of games. But I think he thought, he didn't see this coming. He thought he'd get a lot more games running up to Christmas before they would make a decision. So he had time to try and make some changes and try and get the team firing. I think it's the level of the performance against Chelsea, the gulf between the two teams, reaction of supporters, and I think there's a few other issues behind the scenes, and Top's just gone, no, let's just make the decision now and let's do it now. So yes, there will be a plan, but I don't think there's anybody lined up. But they will try and move very, very quickly now to try and bring somebody in. That they can't have protracted negotiations with another club. So say like for Corberán, who is somebody that they've admired for a while at West Bromwich Albion. They don't really want to have the problem of that being drawn out, protracted negotiations with West Brom, and the compensation they would have to pay, because they're now going to have to pay off Cooper and his staff, and then have to pay compensation for Newman and his staff. Come in. I mean, with PSR concerns still, they're still there.
They are.
They won that court case. It doesn't mean PSR is now, condemned to history. It's not. It's still very, very relevant.
It's January, isn't it? I think when the next set of figures are looked at.
They have to go in by December 31st for last season.
Yeah.
So the Premier League will then have some idea. And bear in mind, all of the EFL's attempts last season to impose sanctions on the club because they were convinced they were breaching last season. So the EFL think Leicester have breached. So unless Leicester have done something in the meantime, and I know this is a big controversy about the shirt sponsors BC game. I know there's big controversy about them, but that is a big deal, a massive deal. And that probably goes some way to helping their PSR situation, but they've still got to be careful. And so I think they would prefer to bring somebody who's ready and available to go, and they don't have to pay compensation for.
And look, if West Bromwich Albion aren't going to do us any favours if we go for Corcoran, are they? They're going to know that we are desperate because it's during the season. It's not like if it happens, during the off season when you've got a few weeks to play around with. They know that we want to get somebody in ASAP, definitely before the January window, but a hell of a lot earlier than that. Which leads us to those managers that are out of work. He was favourite, and now he seems to have dropped out the running again, and that's Cooper. My attitude is how many times, I've said it before, how many times do you ask a girl out if she keeps getting, turning you down? And the rumours are that, sorry, did I say Cooper? I meant Potter, sorry.
I included it in my piece yesterday that they were unlikely to be going for a third time with Potter. I mean, if somebody's shown hesitation to take the job in the past, why would you keep asking them? So I think Graham feels that there are bigger jobs for him in the future. But the thing is, the problem for him is that the longer he's out of the game, people start to forget you. And there becomes some sort of this mythical element about you.
He's got to be careful, because look at Alan Kirbishley.
Yeah.
He left and waited and waited and waited, and where's he managing now? I don't think he ever got another manager's job, did he? And you've got to think of those sort of things. And like you say, you can't leave it too long. They say that Potter's, got a restraining order out against Top. I don't know how true that is or not. But if any manager comes in, let's say Potter's worried about the 6 points or worried about, having a relegation on his CV, he's quite good because he can turn around and say, well, look, this club was in a mess when I came in. I did my best. I don't think it necessarily would go against any manager if we did go down.
Well, there's still 26 games to go, so I think that's still plenty of opportunities for a manager to come in and to do something with it. I mean, I've questioned the quality of some of the players in the squad, but there are still some very talented players in that squad. And if you can find a system that suits them, that they can all buy into, and they can get the best out of them, I mean, that's the challenge for the next man to come in. He's got to work with this group. He's got to find the right combinations across the pitch and the right format to get the best out of them. Enzo was very much wedded to his style of play, and the players had to fit that, whereas Cooper was trying to fit the best players into a system. He had his philosophies, but he did change them. I mean, we had Ricardo come back in, and he played almost identically to Enzo for a couple of games until Ricardo got injured. So he was trying to change things and tinker with things, but I think you need somebody with a clear plan that's going to come in and say, right, this is how we're going to play, lads, and I think you're the best player for this and that and that and the other. And crack on.
And that was what Enzo was good at, There's a thin line between sticking to your principles and stubborn, And I think Enzo, like I say with the England manager, you decide, what your formation is that you want to play, and you pick the players that will fit that formation, not picking a player just because he's particularly good, but if he won't fit into your formation.
Sorry.
That's all right. Don't worry. Moyes is the other one, obviously, and I'm not going to go through every single manager. I'm just going to go through sort of the main, what appeared to be the top three. Although they know in Leicester it'll probably be somebody left field again.
Potter and Moyes are unlikely. I'm not really counting them into the equation.
Moyes isn't going to go back to West Ham, although maybe their manager Lopetegui's got a bit of a stay of execution after last night. But there's the lure of Everton, I think, with him as well, isn't there?
It's whether he wants to come back straight back. He's probably enjoying himself. He's been in the game for so long. So I mean, managers do have burnout. I mean, it is so intense. They do work incredibly long hours. That's why they're incredibly well paid as well. Yes. But it's such a stressful business. Because the sword of Damocles is forever hanging over your head. You've got. I get criticism on social media and stuff, some of my articles, but I don't have 30,000 people chanting me out in a stadium. It can be it can be very, very stressful for them. And I think sometimes they just need to take a bit of time away from the game. And I think David Moyes is probably for the first time in a long, long time taking a little break from the game. But it'd have to be a good job to tempt him back. And you have to wonder, is this the sort of job that he would want to come back for?
Yeah. David, just a very sidetrack quickly. We only got a 1-year sponsorship with BC. Is it
I
one
got
or
2 years.
two? Two. I thought it was 2 year. Yeah, 2 years.
2 years, and they're not bankrupt.
No.
They were settling a legal case that was brought against them. So they are, and the club has sought assurances that they are still very much solvent and trading.
And as I say, I mean, I emailed them direct, and all right, they were never going to turn around and say that there was any problems, but they could have ignored my email, but they didn't. They came back very quickly, in fact, and sort of confirmed that. But that's social media for you, isn't it? Now then, I have got 8 presenters including me on this channel doing different things. I've had Ant and Jack on as well from the Leicester channel, so 10 people all sort of presenting. And I said, right, give me your choice of who you want to be, realistically want to be manager. Tom, who's always way out there, I'm going to be honest with you. Bless you, Tom. Thank you for last night. He went for Mourinho. I think he's going on he wanted a lower team in the Premier League, but look, that's not going to happen. The 3 candidates, Potter, Moyes and Ruud van Nistelrooy, who we all went for. Potter got 3, Moyes got 3, and Ruud van Nistelrooy got 3. So we're completely divided. I must admit, my choice, and I don't know what your thought is on this, and whether you think it could be likely, but Ruud van Nistelrooy.
There's a lot of rumours that he's going to Hamburg, so we'll have to wait and see on that one. He's somebody that they like. Obviously, he was impressive how his team played against Leicester in his last game as caretaker manager. Again, it's whether he would fancy this challenge, but I'm sure. I mean, he is available, so I'm sure they'll be talking to him. And he's been linked to Leicester in the past. He's somebody that has been on their radar. But I've got a feeling it won't be any of those 3. Obviously, I've already dismissed Potter and Moyes, but you never say never, obviously, because people can change their minds. I mean, that's the thing about football. But at this moment in time, neither of Potter and Moyes seem likely, and I would be surprised if they could get Van Nistelrooy. So I think it will be somebody that we have not mentioned yet.
Well, JB says there, easy, Rob. Have you got any? He's straight to the point there, and I'm sure you're not going to sort of say anything because obviously you probably can't.
No, I've not been told any names. And also my colleague David Ornstein, who's probably the best news breaking journalist in the game. I mean, he's phenomenal with the contacts he works and stuff. He'll be trying to find out as well for the Athletics. So. But so far, not a lot of names about at the moment. So we're just like the rest of the fans. We're intrigued to see in which direction they go. I mean, somebody said Southgate. David Clark said Southgate. Would Gareth Southgate want a job like Leicester, or would he like to just now have some time off and do the public speaking circuit, which I understand he's doing quite a bit. He's doing a lot of motivational speaking, management speaking. And earning quite a good living out of that.
A lot less pressure as well. Please not, Southgate. The other please not, which is what a lot of I saw a thing in the Mercury, and they'd spoken to a lot of journalists, and even Gary Lineker, got a lot of mentions. Lee Carsley, I mean, surely not. We've had one England youth manager come in, haven't we?
Yeah. That's an interesting one, but again, you'd have to pay compensation to the FA to set Lee out of his contract. No, I'd not thought of Lee Carsley. I mean, I thought when before he got the England interim job, when Birmingham were looking for a new manager, I thought he would have been a good fit there to go in and build something, because obviously they're on an upward trajectory. Although they got beat by Shrewsbury the weekend, they're on an upward trajectory, and I thought he might have been a good fit for them, but he didn't fancy it. He didn't want to go into club. He's quite happy doing the England under-21s.
Yes, yeah. The good thing is, whoever it is, and look, this is Leicester, so it would probably be somebody totally left field that I say none of us have considered. Like we said earlier, they have got the time this time, haven't they?
Yes, there is plenty of time, and they are above the relegation zone as it stands. So it's not like they're chasing the game; they're just 1 point ahead of the game at the moment. But even with that in mind, I think that's why they decided that it was only going to start going in one direction. So they've made the change, and the next guy comes in. He's got a decent platform to build upon. I think with some of the players, he's got to sort out, weed out the ones that aren't up for it or haven't got the mental strength for it. And hopefully they can back him as well. Obviously, PSR will be a concern in the January window, but they've got to back him as well, bring in a couple of players, give themselves the best chance of survival. And that's all that matters this season. Yeah. Honestly, that's all that matters. The FA Cup, no, doesn't matter, survival. Otherwise, if they go down, it's going to be catastrophic for the club, and they could be in the Championship for a number of years.
Exactly. And the thing is as well, we always say about bringing a manager in during the transfer window, January transfer window. But now, if we can get somebody in quickly, he's got a month to assess the players and see who's not, like you say, not going to work out, rather than just coming in and saying, I want A, B, and C. And I think, yes, a lot of the decisions, like I say, I was not sure about AU, and he's as good as from the bunch that we bought. Edouard and Dakova-Reid, I don't get. Akoli, he will come good, I think. I said there's question marks over others.
He had a couple of bad games, but I like him. I like Caleb. I think he
will come good. Yeah. Faze, I always feel he's got a mistake in him. But basically saying the squad that we've got isn't going to go up and suddenly burst up the league and we're going to finish top half, but it is a squad that's good enough to keep us in the league, which is what you say is all we want. And I think, when we look at the players, and as much as I sort of criticise certain regulars and those that we've bought but maybe haven't had the chance yet, when I look at it, I'm thinking, is this a squad that could at least, like I say, just keep us up? And I think the players there could do that.
Yeah, I think so as well. And I hope that whoever they're talking to will look at that squad and go, yeah, I could do the job as well.
Does very quickly, as I've mentioned, one that I quite liked at the start of the season when he was in a job, and that's Mark Robins. Got links to the club. The argument would be that he hasn't got Premier League experience, but then neither has Corberan. Neither did Martin O'Neill. The best way of getting him is throwing him in at the deep end. I wouldn't rule him out. He's not getting many mentions at all, though.
Yeah, would he be a name that would excite the fans and get the fans on side? Or is he another Steve Cooper type appointment? Would that be? That's all I'm thinking immediately with somebody suggested. Mark.
I think for me, with Mark Robins, A, he's got the links to obviously he's an ex-Leicester player. B, look what he's done at Coventry. Look at the shit that Coventry have been through. No ground to play in, points deductions, and he's still got them to within a few minutes of being a Premier League team and a few minutes of actually being in an FA Cup final. Not going quite as well this season, I grant you. But look at Eddie Howe. As you know, I live down here in Bournemouth. He took over, no management experience whatsoever. He was just an ex-player. And he took them from a position where they started that season on -17, kept them up and took them all the way up to the Premier League and then kept them up. That's the other reason why I went for Ruud van Nistelrooy, because when we got relegated last season, season before last, when we got relegated, we were on our knees, weren't we? And all the fans were sort of like, oh God, we saw this coming, we're down. And Enzo was the name, and everybody went, hell, Enzo, he was holding the Champions League 6 days ago. It gave us that buzz, and I think that's the buzz at the moment, as those that are out there, that Ruud van Nistelrooy would give us.
Yeah, if you're somebody high profile who's played a high standard themselves, and obviously Enzo did as well. That might be a way forward. That might excite the fans, but above all that, though, you just want somebody that's going to inspire. Somebody's going to inspire the players. somebody who's going to inspire the supporters, bring everybody together. I mean, because that's the only way you're going to do it. I mean, you look at Ipswich. You mentioned about the teams that are starting to show signs of fight, and they've got that in spades. I mean, they really do stick together down there. The fans are really on side because it's a completely different scenario to Leicester. They've come from League One to the Premier League. They've got nothing to lose. They've got Kieran McKenna, a very talented manager. All the players love him and buy into what wants them to do. They are one unit, and that gives them the best chance of staying up. Leicester have got to find that. They had it in 2014. They need to find that now, that unity in the stands and on the pitch. We
need Top to pull another rabbit out of the hat, like Enzo, don't we? You know, and like you say, somebody that will excite us. Look, Rob, thank you so much. I know we're never going to answer the questions here, and there's always with Leicester. There's always more questions than answers.
And we don't always know the answers, do we? Because it's Leicester, you know, and they do operate in a very secretive way.
They do.
But it will become apparent, I'm sure, in the coming days.
And do you think without saying we don't know who it's going to be? Do you think there's a possibility that manager will be in, or not necessarily in to take training, but be in to watch the Brentford game?
I would hope so. I mean, I don't really think there's any need to hang about. You know, if there are a number of candidates out there who are out of work who might fancy it, then just move now. There's no time to be like sitting in a committee debating who they should be going for. They should have people in their mind already, and they will have. They will have a list of names, and they will try and be sounding them out now. Are you interested in this challenge or not? If you're not, we're moving on quickly. That's what they've got to do now. So I'm hoping by the end of this week we'll have some news. I mean, we've got a press conference on Thursday. Be interesting to see who's sat behind the desk.
Yeah, it will. There'll be one. Probably not so many seats available this week.
Well, it's a massive media room at Seagrave, and I mean, it was built for like Champions League press conferences nights and things like that. So last season there was me, young Jordan from the Mercury, and the BBC Radio Leicester guys, and occasionally East Midlands Today, and that was it. There was more media staff from the club than actual media in the room.
Can you just ask them to mend the microphones, please? Because we never hear the questions, you know. But
well, we're supposed to use microphones ourselves, but I don't. That's sort of gone by the by. I'll mention it for you, Chris.
Yeah, just so you've had a few complaints, you know.
Yeah.
But look, Rob, always appreciate you coming on here, guys. If you're not subscribed to the Athletic, I don't know why you're not. And you've just written another great piece about owners from Thailand and the Far East and what have you, and that is well worth a read if you haven't done that so already. Always offers on if you can subscribe to it, and I would recommend it. Rob, you're going to be a busy man over the next couple of weeks. Thank you for sparing the time.
I've got a file again in 2 hours, so I better go.
I take the dog for a walk.
I've already done that. He's still lively. See you later.
Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye. There we go then. That's Rob. Always appreciate him giving his time up, especially because we only ever obviously seem to get him on. Well, we did one of the pre-season, but generally when we get him on, it's because we're up shit creek without a paddle. I think Leicester have got first dibs on that paddle, haven't we? If it ever becomes available. Who's it going to be? I mean, Michael Carrick we have been linked with. I always said with Michael Carrick, has he got the experience? He's not been in management that long, but we need to maybe take a risk. Martin O'Neill was one of the biggest risks we've ever taken, coming from Wickham. Was he at Norwich as well? But he hadn't got that, that experience. But I don't think it will be somebody from a club, somebody that's already employed. Like Rob said, it's going to take too long because that club's going to say, do you want him? Yes. Well, let us go and have a think about him. No, we want him now. Well, if you want him now, what are you going to pay us? Well, we'll give you 3 million. Let's just pluck a figure out of the air. Ooh, no, we want 6 million. Well, I don't want to pay you 6 million. Well, you're not getting him then. And we will just be held to ransom. So, Greg, it will be a big name. I think it does need. There needs to be a name that will be. So I don't know. I mean, Dean Smith's in a job at the moment. Is it Charlotte? Is at FC with Christian Fuchs? The reason I've gone for Rude is because, like I say, I think we need. It'll be if it's somebody left field. If it's not Rude, then it'll be somebody left field. I think that, to me, that's the way it's going. But then look, hey, I'm bottom of the prediction league, so what the fuck do I know about football? But for me, I don't think Moyes will come. I think Cooper, we've just had it, unless it's the biggest surprise going if Cooper comes. Would I be happy with Cooper? Yes. Would I be happy? It's Cooper, sorry, Potter. Would I be happy with Graham Potter after everything that's gone on? Still would be. Would I be happy with Moyes? I think he'd do a job and keep us up. But I want Ruud van Nistelrooy because he will give us that excitement that we had with Enzo. And I think that would give us the most excitement. Everybody says he hasn't got the experience. Look, he was at PSV. Didn't do too bad at PSV. And obviously he's been at Man United. He was dumped on from a great height there. So he may want to come back and think, well, I'm going to play Man United again at Leicester. I'll show them. Not that it will happen. Look, I'm posting every 5 minutes on social media. It's this manager, it's that manager, it's the other manager. It will change daily. But keep tuned. We will be back tonight. Yes, we will. You can't get rid of us that easily. 7 o'clock with Chatting City. That's the normal debate show tonight at 7 o'clock. We will be talking, whoever the new manager is, what has he got? Indeed, Craig, indeed. And I think Ruud does that. I think that Ruud van Nistelrooy would earn the respect as a coach manager. How he'd get on with Jamie Vardy beating his record. Oh, being serious, I mean, yes, he would gain that respect as a player. Has he got the respect as a manager? I think he would. And he isn't coming in straight from, being out of work for a long time or not having any experience at all. For me, Ruud. Get Ruud in. Break the bank. We asked this the other day on one of the shows. Should we break the bank? Not break the bank as in go stupid. But yes, we need to get somebody in quick. We need to get somebody in. If we get relegated this season, we will not be back probably for another 10 seasons because the EFL are waiting for us. And like I said, and if you read my bit on the bbc.co.uk/Leicester, you'll see my bit about why Cooper had to go. And as I said there, the EFL are like the child snatcher from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. They're there with the nets waiting for us to fall through that trap door, and they are going to hit us with everything. Fingers crossed, Ben. But no, we'll be looking at whoever the new manager is, fingers crossed, Ruud, whoever the new manager is, we'll be looking at what he has got to do with the squad and the club as it stands. Joined by Kate, joined by Craig, 7 o'clock. Look, a lot of you have been in this morning. Thank you so very, very much for that. It has come early because, look, you fit Rob in at the moment when he's available, and he's not available sort of in the evenings. Like this all broke when he was cooking his wife a birthday meal on Sunday, so he's still not done that. That's why I said about is he still married earlier on. I will see you at 7 o'clock. Thank you to everybody that's been in the chat. Really, really appreciate you popping in. I say really appreciate it, Rob. Please, if I don't know what the current offer is. My offer, I think, was either £2 a month. Or it's even been down as low as £1 a month when you sign up for it. But it is well worth it. Please do go and subscribe to The Athletic. Rob, he talks sense. I know I'm posting a lot of rumours at the moment from all the tabloids and the silly sites like Football Insider and the 90. Rob is up there with Fabrizio, so please do go and subscribe. But I will be back at 7 o'clock. We'll talk even more. But we will see you then. Thanks to everybody, like I say, for joining us. Have a good afternoon. Take care. See you then. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You'd better like them too, or I'll be back.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.